afternoon, and good afternoon, Bala. I think you are all the way in India. It's a pleasure to have you today. So, how are you doing, sir?
My pleasure. Thank you, Tony. Nice to see you on this show. And I've been waiting for this for a long time because you gave so much of picture about the good thing you're doing about. And me being on this wonderful show, I'm sure it should benefit all your participants across the world.
Excellent. That's great. Because as you were alluding to, Bala, yes. So we have launched the masterclass because we want to make sure that as many people as possible get the knowledge they need for them to become successful solar developers across the world, certainly in the African continent, but across the world. Simply because for me to go through this journey, it took me many years and time. And it's not easy to get all the knowledge that you can just simply just put in one place and deliver that. And this is what we have been wanting to tap into, and that we are doing right now. So as we are speaking, definitely we have the first two levels that are available, and this is the third one that we're launching. That's for the advanced level. And then we also brought forward experts like yourself, because we believe as well that people may be thinking it's just me, Tony, speaking. But I want them to hear as well from you, because your experience is very much invaluable, especially you, Bala. So let me just jump on that and take the opportunity to say, yes, I've said Bala a couple of times, but people need to know exactly who you are. So would you mind please properly introducing yourself?
I would very much like to introduce myself, but since I already sent you the intro to you, you should be able to read comfortably, because the lingo what you speak, perhaps people are able to understand you much better than I could speak. So I'm reserving myself to be very, very slow in terms of answering so many questions you have sent it to me. And just to start with, my full name is Balaji Rangarajan. It's the name of the two gods coming together. One is my father's name, which goes as a surname, as called Rangarajan. So Balaji, short form, people like to call me as Bala, but not few friends of mine who are close to me call me by that name. And it's a very popular name in the south of India. I've been born in India, brought up in India, studied overseas, came back and worked in India. Now I work across some of the geographies here. So to start with, I leave Tony to read the intro, what I've sent you a paragraph that will able to set the ball in motion.
Okay, that's great. So you want me to read that intro, yeah?
Yeah, that will be much better, because your lingo is much better than mine.
I think what you've been saying there, Bala, worked very well for me. So, but if you want me to read the intro, so let me get it then, and I can make sure that I can get it. I can give justice to what you sent me. Just a second.
It's nice to get it read by someone about yourself.
It's a way as well to flatter your ego. So yeah, so let's go for that. You can hear me, right, Bala?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so having a total experience of 32 years leading teams in renewables energy, right? Namely wind, biomass, hydro, solar, and when India renewable landscape was below 750 megawatt only. Wow. So that means actually that's some time ago. I started my career in this sector, cut my teeth in renewables energy sector with 25 years of leadership experience here. Some of the challenges in leadership position included the P&L responsibility, so obviously profit and loss, project finance and project execution and development, up to 2,000 megawatts. That's huge, Bala. 2 gigawatts. Yeah. Oh, wow. And in framing acquisition strategy of mega renewable energy project of over $2 billion, gained significant work experience while working for organization of very who, from startup to professionally manage. What does MNC mean, Bala?
Multinational company.
A multinational company operating in India. Currently serving as Director of Strategy and Business Development for Solon India and Solon International for India, Sub-Saharan Africa, South America, wow, and Southeast Asia. So actually you're doing everything for Solon. Yeah. And as education, obviously you're an associate of the Institute of Cost and Executive Accountant from London. So you have a postgrad in business management and a graduate from Faculty of Commerce. So Bala, that's actually quite huge. Wow. I think that's, I have to say, I'm learning pretty much at the same time as everybody. So your journey is very huge. Is there anything you want to add to that, or that's about it?
Just on the personal side, I'm married with and I have one son who is currently doing his PhD in economics in the University of Carlos de Madrid. And I'm too passionate about conservation of wildlife, which I will be taking it as a career option in next 5 to 10 years time. The best part of my life is being over. And thereafter, maybe depending upon the time permits, I will do some other work, which basically focus into the social sector. For example, I'm already got involved into some kind of social charity work that educates children of below 20 years. And it's a poverty-stricken place in the west of India. In that social movement, I'm one of the key person involved in developing those children to get basic education kind of life. And let me tell you, that location which we are working in Mumbai, in the western part of India, is totally a COVID-free zone in India.
Wow!
It is the most unhygienic place till recently. When the precautions were taken for COVID, that's the largest slum in Asia. That slum, which we run that social project in that slum, and that slum became the total COVID-free zone.
Wow!
While the rest of the metropolis of Mumbai, the commercial capital of India, still battles out with COVID, and that particular Asia's largest slum. When you land in Mumbai, you can see from the aircraft how big the slum is, and that is a COVID-free zone.
That's impressive. That's, whoa, by anyone's standards these days, that's an impressive achievement, I have to say. That's great, and that's where you're coming from. That's great. So Bala, so I have been reading your experience spans across decades, right? And but I wanted to know, so all the way, because you must have picked up the industry when we were actually starting, right? Looking at the experience that you have. But how did you get into the industry per se? So what was your journey?
It's quite nostalgic, Tony, because way back in 1995, 96, when I joined a startup renewable energy company, we were looking at the idea of developing infrastructure projects, basically into roads and power. And being a startup company, we didn't have an access to get into that particular space. So what we thought is, we analyzed ourselves, we thought we possibly came to a very good conclusion that in future, renewable energy might be of the biggest game-changing plan, and why not we start now? So we did about a 1-year study about the renewable energy. Those days, solar was not known in India. Globally, might be starting off in 1995, 96. So the wind was in a slightly in a upstream kind of a situation where smaller wind turbine projects, a wind turbine as small as 55 kilowatt, and the maximum capacity in India was about 250 kilowatt turbine. Today we have a 10 megawatt single turbine. I'm talking about 1/20th of that as a capacity turbine. So getting a finance was difficult. We somehow managed to pick up finance to install 2 turbines of 250 kilowatt each, and that way our journey started. And when we looked at going forward, we knew that in a few years from then onwards, the world will look at renewable energy, because we cannot continue burning the fossil fuels for a lifetime, very clearly. So that made as a very conclusive decision that we should stick onto this platform. So in that startup company, we started with a 250 kilowatt turbine, and we installed about 250 megawatts in the span of 14 years. And there, the project was, every wind turbine was a project by itself, and every group of turbines was a project by itself. So a 250 megawatt would have been almost close to about 200 project by itself, because the turbines are very small. A project consists of 4 numbers or 5 number turbines of 250 kilowatt. This essentially means one project has about just 1.5 megawatt, which is a very insignificant number if you look at today's parlance. But those days, the battery was very strong. You didn't have any regulatory things in India. The banks were not able to look what is windmill is all about. So we had challenges across in every steps we used to put in. But those steps put in 14 years, we developed close to about 250 megawatt. And I was the first person to take the NIPP, that's called the Independent Power Producer, as a developer, to get into the public domain as a initial public offerings in India. We got listed in India in the two exchanges called the Bombay Stock Exchange and the National Stock Exchange, and we got listed in Singapore. The 14 years journey took me to that spectrum. So if someone asks me, what are the problems you have faced and what are the solutions,
Which
I always,
which was my next question, actually.
Yeah, I will deep dive into that, but I always tell them the problems what I faced is multi-folded, and the solutions found was multi-folded, and you will not have a solution for any of the questions you're asking, because every problem, every question was demanding a separate solution by itself. So I will not go deep into that now, but I will definitely deep dive into it when you ask the specific questions to me later.
Okay, that's great. Which is I think it's just fantastic what you just said. Like I say, I'm discovering at the same time as everybody. But as you were talking about the challenge, definitely let's talk about that, because I know you would have seen so many with such a long career that you have. But if you just highlight at least one or two, just tell us, how did you manage to solve it? Because people always share me, yeah, I had this challenge, I fixed it. Yes, but that's too general, right? Too generic, right? But when you give specific example, then people can see how from your brain you work things out to find out how can I find a solution out of this very complicated solution situation.
Okay. So I'm going to tell about my experience from an Indian point of view first, which will be slightly comical, and it will be, you'll be enjoying it. For example, when we started working in 1996, we were trying to put the project in a different state in India. And we live in a place called Tamil Nadu. We went to other southern state called Karnataka. So when you put a 2-3 megawatt of wind turbine at that point of time, we became slightly knowledgeable guy and known guy. So we took a private jet from Chennai to a place about 9,000 kilometers away. We landed in that particular place. From there, we drove down to about 60 kilometers to the prospective project site. And when I went there, I found things are totally disastrous. And I was telling my colleagues that how we are going to do the project. We actually planned to stay only for a day and return back the same night. But my colleague said, you better stay back. I said, what's the scope? He said, we have to finalize the land. Land is the most critical aspect of the project in renewable energy. But in terms of value, it's insignificant value of the project, total project cost itself. But without the land, you can't do the project. So I stayed back. So I bought a clothing for about next 1 week. So I sent a word back home saying that I'm not coming for next 7 days. So I said, so we got our people arranged in terms of showing us the land. So land was about 440 acres of land. So in terms of hectares, you have to divide by 2.47, you get the hectares. It's about close to 125, 130, 150 hectares, roughly you can call it. Quite a big piece of land. So it is not that when you buy the land, someone is going to come and show you the road map, the land map, and say, these are the boundaries of land, you're going to buy 450 acres of land. It's not like that. So they called all the owners of the land. So suddenly I found more than 100 people converging along with the documents saying that please buy my land. So at that point I decided, suddenly I get a goosebumps. When those villagers came to sell the land, I could see the promises they were looking from me in terms of buying the land and giving them money for the survival. That actually moved me, and I decided at that point of time, as long as I'm going to be in renewable energy any part of the world, I am going to pick up the rural development very, very clearly. Be it economic assistance, be it in terms of purchasing of the land, or involving them in the project itself, pre or post commissioning. So having said that, so we had got the local translator who was doing this job, and we said to make them stand in the line. In India, to make people stand in the line is very difficult. Okay, for them, the line is wherever they stand, the line begins. Okay. So that's where the ecosystem is. It's not that you stand 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the 100. No, they all come and stand together, and that's what the line is all about. Sure. So you have to find a way out to meet each one of them. So the funniest part is, to start with, is so one lady came with the land documents to me, and that was written in local lingo. So my guy translated and said, sir, towards the west, he has got about 6 hectares of land, and it starts from this point to that point. So out of sheer curiosity, just to ensure that the lady knows the selling of the land, I asked her, where is the land? She said, from this point to that point. She just on the as the crow flies, she showed me that. So I just put a small curve and said, okay, this is what it is. So then I found out, how did he get the land? She said she got a land of the third generation before her, who got a land free of cost, allotted to her by that point of time. Their forefathers who had done a good job to that particular community living there. I said, okay, fine. Then we said, so the next person comes in. So he said, my land is this side, 5 hectares. Again, my curve going on here. So the third person comes here and says the same measurement, same survey number, or the same extent of land. I asked this, how can it be? You know what she said? I said, this lady is already given like this. I said A to B. She said, mine is not A to B, it's from B to C. Okay, so this went on all of the directions, and suddenly one person came and said, again the same survey number, and the first lady came in, and he said, I already told him A to B to C, C to D, C to D, and D to E. And he said, he just removed all that. He said, he just looked at my eyes and said, he told me to look into the eyes and said, my land is from D point to the extent your vision goes. So I have to believe. Then I said, okay, let me park that. I finished all the work, and then I took the local bicycle. You can't travel by road, but there's no road at all, as a matter of fact. So I took a bicycle along with the local surveyor and went on cycling for about half an hour, and I reached, I know the land. From there, I asked him, he said, from this point is A, and the other side is B. So it's a very funny experience. But unless you get involved into this kind of an activity of the project, you are miserable, you're bound to fail, because someone is talking about the land. If you don't know the contour of the land, the characters of the land, you will not be able to, that guy will not be satisfied. Which actually, this is very important, because later on when you go for the funding of the project, the lenders, the equity investors, the moment you're going to give the full landscape of the ecosystem of the land and the contour of the land in a way in which you understand. Now, as I told you, otherwise you can't get the basics. That's what the most challenges are. That's one. Okay. Second challenge was, when you buy the land for the project, it's not always that you get a full circle of 360 degrees and then you buy a fence. It's not possible, because there are a lot of guys who want to sell the land, a lot of guys who does not sell the land. So what we normally do is, when you buy the land, we learn the experience, you buy the full outer periphery of the land. Okay, and then you formalize the land, and there are some guys in between want to create a disturbing to you, because they were expecting a higher remuneration for that land than you bought the land. So they always think that, without you buying that land, you're not able to do activities. So the very fact that we buy the entire outer landscape and seal him, so he will think that I can't go throughout this land, but I will ensure that he does not go outside my land. So you seal it. Okay. The hunter gets hunted. The hunter gets hunted. So that's the way. These are the challenges we learned in the job. That's one. Number 3 is the final one is where, in terms of when the project implementation takes place, the vehicle movements come in. So you need to plan very meticulously to the T in terms of how the activities are going. So from my experience, I have macroed about 4 to 5 macros in terms of project construction from start to finish, and about 57 to 60 micros I've done again each of them. So I go granularly 1 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to do the project. So I keep ticking every week or every day, depending on what activities get completed, and then we find a solution. So I learned that this is a big challenge. Today, closing my eyes, I can tell you what are the 7 micros and the 57 micros, and you can just follow the same thing. I can do that. So that's what the challenge is. And we learned the challenges being in the job, not someone learning from the book or someone telling us to do it. And I can tell you what is the foundation, what's the kind of steel that goes into it, what's the kind of steel that goes into it, how much of sandbags you require, how much of cement is required, what's the combination of cement, steel, and sand required for a foundation. Everything I can tell you closing my eyes, because I used to get down inside the pit myself, measure the pit, and take all the measurements. So that's the way again. So these challenges are pretty much there everywhere, even in personal lives. It depends upon how much you want to get involved into solving the issue. finding a solution, because every solution has got a problem. Every problem has got a solution, and the solution is on the way. So the moment you shut the door, solution will stop. So I always tell people, if you do your best, God will do the rest. But if you don't do your best, God will take rest.
I think the message is very clear, and I just so love what you said, Bala, because if I can again say that here, so because I had the question before, is like, if I do the master class, if I go there, am I going to get a certificate? Is it recognized? So listen, what you need to understand here, becoming a solar developer, it's exactly becoming a solar entrepreneur. So there is no certificate for entrepreneurship. What you get the skills, the knowledge, and the confidence, and you go. And you go on the ground, you get things done, you implement. And that's actually where you really will complete your learning. But you need to be equipped first to know how to, so that when you land there, you at least know what direction to start from and how, or have an idea how to follow things around. And that's what the master's class is actually given to people. If you think you're going to have this master this and you can go, it doesn't happen like that when you want to become a solar developer, solar entrepreneur. And your example from the startup to the nitty-gritty challenge that you experience with the land, it's a perfect illustration of what we just said. Oh, that's brilliant, Bala. So let me just ask you the last question of the first video, because obviously there's going to be a second video where we're going to go a little more into implementation, talking about finance, which I believe for me, I don't know, I know you would not like me to say that, but let me say you're almost the god of finance for me. So
No.
there are many gods I know, with all due respect to them, but for me, you my reference, put it that way. So, but before we get into that second video, so I just wanted to know, because you and I have traveled in the continent in Africa, and I know how much you deeply love Africa and how much you can see what could happen just learning from the example of India, which for me is a fantastic example to look out for as an African. Why do you believe it's important to have local solar developer in Africa? And then I know the question will resonate with you, because like I say, I'm just looking at India. Back in the days, you know, when industry was starting, you were talking about 750 megawatts for the size of India. That's nothing. But now we can't imagine the number of developers that are in India. There's so many, and the likes of Solon, but there are many others. So why do you believe then? So I almost gave part of the answer there, but why do you believe it's so important for Africa to have enough solar developer?
Yeah. See, as I told you, my career began in India when the capacity was only 750 megawatts. Today, the total renewable energy capacity in India is over 100,000 megawatts. Okay, so you can imagine I have traveled that 100,000 megawatts, but physically got involved in over 2,000 megawatts of development, of acquisition, all this kind of stuff. Coming back to the questions in Africa, I was so enchanted because from the solar perspective, the efficiency of harnessing solar is much larger or equal to India in Africa. That's number one. That's very important, because the 12 hours or 14 hours of sunlight in Africa is a very big asset compared to any other parts of the world. And India and Africa is actually the same platform or same. As a matter of fact, Africa was a part of India once upon a time before the meteor split us very clear. Otherwise, you're the same. In fact, I've seen some of the videos where the African lions coming into Indian territory, nation territory as well. Mm-hmm. But sadly enough, the meteor break a few centuries before, and then we got split. So in terms of the availability of sun for longer time, and that's very important. That makes me Africa a very important destination. Number two is Africa. If I'm very, very sure, if Africa, all the 54 countries in Africa comes together, they can become the most superpower in the world. They can eat US for breakfast and China for lunch, and leaving India as a good friend. They can do that.
Good masala.
Yeah. So, but unfortunately, I'm sure the next generation of educated masters across Africa will definitely look at that, because today, when looking at the leaders in Africa, by and large, they are more highly educated. They want to look at, as Dr. Attenborough said very clearly, world is one planet, very clear. And we're coming towards that. And Africa and India culturally has a lot of things in common. That's one thing. And secondly, Africa, we find that the socio-economic development can be much faster and more involved in other parts of the world. For example, if I'm going to put a project in Germany or the US, the social impact is not as great as it's going to be in India and in Africa, or for example, Southeast Asia. I've done a project in Thailand, the remote of the Thailand place. I've done wind project. I've done a solar project there. Now I've done in India across quite a few states in India, not all the states. And now I'll be looking at Africa. We find that the in terms of giving back to society, people can always say, I want to give back. The question is, what do you want to give back? It is not that you're going to pick up $1 and give a charity. That's not that. The question of making someone sustain on their own for their lifetime, that is something called giving back.
Yeah.
If I'm talking to you, you have willingness to pay me. I'm not interested to take that because I'm just trying to give you my knowledge. Maybe out of 100 people you're going to play this, if one person can find a meaning in my talking to you, that's actually the game changer in terms of dynamics, very clearly. So similarly here, Africa, I was very, very sure that we will do a project in Africa and we'll get involved local masses. So Solon India, which whom I currently work with, we have done a project in Somalia. And given a choice to Africans themselves, they would not like to go and dare to work in Somalia. Very, very clear. So Solon went all the way to Somalia to do a 26 megawatt solar diesel hybrid project. We got at where that, I don't know many of Africans know or not, it's a place where you got more guns than pens. Somalia, very clearly. And in that dreaded land, Solon went all the way from India to do a project, do solar diesel hybrid projects. So that because when the construction of the project took place, we took tremendous amount of precaution, but the local people got involved so much. They got their livelihood, which otherwise they would not got it. Okay? We employed the local people to be a part of the mainstream activity post-commissioning. We have from India only 4 guys in the entire project. The rest of the people are local people. And had we not gone there, perhaps that bunch of guys working in that project may not have find a livelihood, but they will be going out with a gun, not with a pen. And our aim is not allow people to take that extreme position in terms of carrying on the livelihood. Similarly, coming to our approach, when we started discussing about the Botswana, the project, my first condition to the local JV partner whom you have introduced was that we would like to involve the locals as much as possible, not only towards the work in terms of augmenting resources, in terms of doing the contracting working, procurement of land, in terms of construction of the project. What we will do is we will do the EPC in terms of supplying the equipment from our source. So all the construction activities we will involve locally. This parallelly develops a good socio-economic strength for the project. You're giving them livelihood, if not for life, at least for 25 years, number one. Number two, you are able to harness the local, the solar energy, which will curtail the use of fossil fuel to that extent. Clearly. So these are the dynamics that played very strongly in our role, in our mind, and we found Africa can be the next destination for Solon outside India.
Okay, excellent, Bala. I think that's very, very compelling reason, and I'm sure there'll be lots of people that will want to become solar developer in the continent, and there's lots of people, hopefully, that will want to engage with you personally, Bala, and a lot of people engage as well with the firm that you're representing, Solon. So, Bala, that was the end of the first part of our conversation. So I'm sure people would have learned a lot, especially about your very good stories you have from India, which are very, very, very funny. So I might want to send you my land as well, but we can do that in private. So Bala, thank you very much for your time. And as I say, so we're sure you'll be catching up soon, but I'm sure everybody will want to join me to say, yes, we are happy and honored to have people like you by our side, and then happy as well that you are contributing to this masterclass. And yeah, thank you for that.
My pleasure, Tony. Look forward to see you again. Thank you.
Excellent.